All right, today we're going to be working on fixing up this pool table. It's a Dynamo 37 series. It's from the 70s. I believe it used to be in a bar. It's coin operated. It runs off 1/4. I'll tell you how old it is. And I've checked the rack counter. It's at least been racked 5,000 times. So what we're going to do is I've got some new felt and pre-covered bumpers from Penguin Amusement. I went with the English green color. I like the green. So we got that. We got rail bolts. We got new pocket liners. And then corner covers here. These are trimmed to fit. We'll have to trim those to fit. But the first thing we're going to do today is take this old slate. It's already been pre-cleaned. Getting the glue off of that was not fun. But it's cleaned up pretty good. I'll cut to some shots of that in a second. And we're going to be gluing down new felt. Again, colors English green. It's from Penguin Amusement. It's just the standard felt. It doesn't have the backer on it because it's not a bar table. I don't really have to worry about a ton of play on this thing. Hopefully it lasts for a long time. But I picked this thing up off of Facebook Marketplace. I paid a couple $100 for it. These tables fully functional are at least $1,000. So I'm in it well under that. So it didn't have rails on it or anything, so I had to buy the rails. So I went ahead and had Penguin Amusement cover those when I got those. So we've got new rails all around. We got new felt all around. The table has already been leveled with the slate in it once, so hopefully it drops back in. Everything will still be level. But today, what we're going to be doing is getting the bed covered on it. So let's get to work. Let's see what kind of glue we have first. All right, so we have this Cami 300 spray adhesive. I've got a couple of pieces of cardboard. We're going to put some plastic sheeting down so I don't get spray glue everywhere. I don't need it to go. I've never done this before. You're going to do it with me. First time. All right, let's get to work and see what we can get sticky. So I'll just give you a quick walk around of everything I've got. I've got some plastic sheeting here. I'm going to put that on the sides. I've got it set up on just some blocks of wood, and I've got it spaced out here where I can get to the sides easy. The corners might be a little bit of a problem for me. I've watched a couple YouTube videos on that. I can link below that make it seem like it's going to be fairly easy to do. I mean, it's a little bit complex. It's not rocket science by any means. But yeah, here's all the stuff. Here's all 6 rails, 6 new pocket liners, and then the corner covers there. I don't know what any of this stuff's called. I had to have new rail bolts because that's the way this thing came. It didn't come with any side trim, rail bolts, anything. I can get all that stuff secondhand, or not secondhand, but basically buy new old stock, I guess, from Dynamo, or a couple companies sell it. Here's the inside. I didn't have any ball door on it. All this stuff works. It's not a magnetic cue ball. It's a weighted cue ball. I don't have a weighted cue ball. That's something I need to pick up as well. But so I just decoded this. Went on Dynamo's website, got the information on it, made sure I verified everything before I ordered it from Penguin Amusement. I have no clue what color the table is. It's old. Here's the coin slot. Just one coin. Let's take this out. If you can see, I don't think you can see that counter in there, but there's a counter right under there that reads, I think 5,500 times this table's been racked, so it's had a lot of pool plate on it. And like I said, Dynamo table. Let's get this stuff laid out here, and we'll learn how to do this together. So I went ahead, I wiped everything down. My first step is going to be just to lay this out. This felt is, it's got stickers on it. If I can find one, I'll show you. See how we've got it folded up here. Orient it this way. This is pre-trimmed. I know a lot of the videos I saw, people were installing felt that wasn't pre-trimmed. They had a ton of leeway on either side. This is trimmed fairly accurately, so I don't have that much wiggle room to play with. It's enough to cover the table. I'm confident I can get that done. But I'll show you what I mean here in a second. Here you can see the sticker that just says playing surface up. This is a playing surface, so they don't want you to glue it on upside down. This does have quite a few wrinkles on it. One thing I don't have down here now, this does have quite a few wrinkles on it. One thing I do need to run upstairs and get is just a spray bottle to mist this. Basically, when you stretch the fabric, the wrinkle should come out of it, apparently. But when you mist the fabric and just get it slightly damp, it'll relax the felt. So that way, after you have it glued up and it dries and the water dries off of the felt will tighten back up. The water will loosen it up just a little bit. You don't want to soak it. You just want to get it a little bit misted. And then that way, God forbid, if you don't get all the wrinkles out when you stretch the fabric, which should not happen, when it dries, it'll pull itself even tighter. And that way you'll have a nice, smooth, flat, even surface to play pool on. All right, so here's what I'm talking about. So here's your sticker, basically this side up. Any idiot can read that. But there's not a ton of extra fabric here. I mean, it covers all sides perfectly fine. I've got enough material in the corner to get that done. Everything wraps around the bottom. We won't install it wrapped around the bottom, but just to give you a little bit of a reference to how much fabric there is. I mean, there's enough to get this done. I'll probably fold it back and glue it up like that. I'm going to run and get my spray bottle, and then we're going to start applying this. You can see as well when I fold this up, you can see where the old glue marks were. I don't know when the last time this thing was recovered. The guy I bought this from said he got it out of a storage unit. So I'd vacuumed the inside out and got everything prepped. I took the old felt off, and they had so much glue caked up on this thing. From what I understand, the spray glue will stick on top of a little bit of residue. I went ahead and cleaned this with acetone and got a razor and scraped it off. So, I mean, it's flat. There are no raised edges here. The rails are going to cover the side of it anyways, but I wanted to glue to basically as virgin of a surface as I could. I didn't want any dirt, debris, or anything under there. So we scraped it. We acetoned it. Even the you can kind of see the striations in the slate here as well. That's how clean we got it. But it's pretty cool taking a look at all of this old stuff on this table. Hopefully everything works well. But let's get to misting the top side of the felt and start gluing up. So I got my water. I have distilled water here, so that's what I used. I think tap water would probably be fine, but I've got distilled water. I don't use it for anything else, so I may as well spray it on this. Before I do this, though, I don't want to skip a step. I'm going to fold this up, and I'm going to put down some basically plastic paper here to kind of control any overspray from the glue. From what I understand, once you go from gluing to stopping gluing, then to respraying the glue, sometimes it can shoot everywhere. So I want to control that a little bit. So I'm going to put some plastic down here just to cover the table. I'll also use some on the top side of the felt just in case I have some stray glue that goes over. I also have some cardboard backer that I'll put there too to kind of control that. But let me get the plastic laid down. We'll get it spritzed. We'll get everything covered up, and then we'll start gluing and stretching. Not a ton of water. Might be too much water. It wasn't even really that much, but let's just kind of dry it just a little bit with microfiber. That way the surface is damp, but there's not a ton on it. Yeah, it's still a little bit damp, but I didn't even spray that much on it, so hopefully that'll give it a little bit of flex. I think this material is a little bit water repellent anyways, because it's based as the basic wool. So it's basically what you would put on a bar table without the backing on it. That makes it a little bit tougher, but I think it's a little bit resistant just based on how it beads up. I did also go through and flip this over and draw some reference marks about where more or less the edge of the felt would line up with the table. So feel pretty good. We'll shake our glue up a little bit more. Have our backer board to put behind here to reduce any overspray or not have any overspray. And then it's just spraying. Another tip that I did see is have a spare piece of cardboard to basically just pop off a couple sprays to make sure everything's cleared out, make sure you don't have any strays, and then you go spraying. That should help keep everything in the right direction. Do a test spray. And then what we'll do is we'll fan and we'll put, we'll obviously spray this, but then we'll spray at an angle to get it on the corners here as well. Not going to spray the pockets right now. So about 2 or 3 coats there, and then back to the fabric. All right, we'll let that tack up. And then we'll start putting our fabric down. So light pressure at first. The plastic, I'm going to go ahead and take that off the other sides. That's just causing me a little bit of issue here. So let's just go ahead and rip that off. We don't need it. That's more trouble than it's worth. So lesson learned there. You don't have to do that. I'll learn that lesson for you. So this is sticking pretty good. We'll just work all these little wrinkles out. Pull down on the sides. Obviously, it's your pool table. You want it to be as perfect as you can get it. But also understanding you're not playing on these edges. You're playing on the surface of the table. You also have some covered by the rail. So there's that. So this side is down. All right, so again, on this side, we'll come with our Sharpie. We'll come behind the fabric and just put a reference line. We're gonna get rid of the plastic. That's just a pain in the ass. We don't need it. Come with the Sharpie Give ourselves a reference line down the table. Now, granted, this is going to stretch, so we'll want to be on the, I guess, the bottom side of this line. When we go to pull up, so I'm going to do the fabric first here. Feel like I'm using a lot of glue, but worst thing could happen is we could have to redo it. Hopefully that is not the case. All right. So let's fan it to tack it up. I feel like it's getting pretty tacky, so we're not going to fan that much. And then we'll put on and stretch. Stretch. Pull and stretch. Before I get started on these end pieces, I will say one thing. I think I massively underestimated how much this stuff would stretch, but it stretched pretty good. It's pretty tight on the table. I think everything else will come out when we pull it back this way. So gonna flip it up and get that going. this point, my hand's sticking to the cardboard. All right. So, let's get ready to pull and stretch this side. Oh yeah. She is stretching pretty good. I'm happy with that. These corners were a lot easier than the other sides were. All right, so here's my first issue here, and I don't think it will be because this will stretch over the edge. Just might be a little bit more messy than I wanted it to be. With this being pre-cut, it probably isn't that conducive to really DIY it properly. But that's okay. We'll make it work. I have enough to pull over that edge. I might just get my hands a little bit stickier than I want. But basically I pulled too much that way and it kind of shifted back. But when we stretch, if this was a little bit more oversized, it wouldn't be an issue. We'll pull it back this way. We'll stretch it. We'll get it where it needs to be. It's all going to be cut off here anyways. So let's get this side done. All right. All right, so as you can see, I have a little bit of excess down here. I'm gonna let this set for a second. Let this fully set up. But I had enough. If I had to do it over again, I would do it a little bit differently. But now we're gonna trim the excess and we're gonna cut the corners out. All right, let's trim the bottom here. All right. That's one side. You can see I left a little bit of extra material here to tuck under. This area of the table doesn't sit on anything, so if I fold under, I'm not going to interfere with the levelness of the table. So I left myself a little bit of extra material here to glue up under there when I cut the pockets in. And I'll do the same thing on the ends too, because they don't sit on anything either. So I'm going to repeat this step around all 4 corners. And just to prove, I did get overhang on that one side. This is what we cut off of it. It's thin, but it's there. It's stretched. Now we're going to go in here and cut the pockets. So right underneath the felt, right down the center. This is a lot. I'm going to cut some of this excess off here. I left too much, but I would rather go back and cut it now than have cut too much when I was doing this. We'll cut that off. Come right here. Cut again. Cut that there. Put that in the middle. As well. So this is a little bit extra than what I saw them do on the internet. I just saw them do those 3. I have an extra tab here. I'm going to glue that under. I might cut that off actually. We'll shorten those a little bit. So then we'll still get a good glue up under there and tuck that back. I'm going to repeat this process on all 4 corners, and the center pockets are just about the same. Another trick I saw was to take and just lightly mist just the back side of this sheet. You can sit it, you can kind of bend a curve here. You could, well, maybe it needs more than a light misting. Get that a little sticky. Yeah, got a little stick to it. Tack up your pieces that you need to glue the bottom of. Get those good and coated. Lift that up. Get under there. And then you just stick the corners down. And that's that. So I got a little wrapped up in working on this thing. I dropped it back in. I put the corner pieces in. That's easy. If you can take them out, you can put them back in. And now I'm just using a drill on a very low torque setting so I don't strip anything out. And I'm putting in the side rail. So it's pretty simple. You want to get them all the bolts in before you tighten anything up. So I'm just putting the bolts in, and then we'll go back through and tighten stuff up, and it'll be ready to play. So there you have it. It's done. The rails are on. The only thing to do now is to rack a game of pool and see how she plays. No, obviously I'm not the world's best pool player. I'm not the world's best pool table restorer, but it's done, and it took a little over 2 hours. Probably, if I'd had 2 people, it would have taken me an hour and a half. But I need to clean it up a little bit around the edges. I need to get some more trim pieces for the side. Display door where the balls get racked when you're done playing. But the pool table's complete. It's level. Everything's good to go. Knock on wood. But yeah, thanks for watching the video. Like and subscribe as more happens with this thing. Trim and everything else. Maybe a pool table cover, maybe a light for down here. We'll update it. All right, guys. See ya.